One sentence. A sentence that changed my entire life. Do you seriously think someone like me would ever date someone like you? Everyone heard it. The customers. The waiters. The cooks peeking through the kitchen window. Even the family celebrating a birthday at the corner table stopped singing. Then she laughed. The kind of laugh that tells everyone else it's safe to laugh too. And they did. I stood there holding a small bouquet I'd bought from a street vendor with the last money in my wallet. The flowers suddenly felt heavier than bricks. I wanted the ground to open beneath me. Instead, I quietly placed the bouquet on an empty chair, apologized for disturbing everyone, and walked out. 3 years later, I returned. And when she looked up and saw my name on the ownership papers, the smile disappeared from her face. Growing up, we never had much. My father repaired old bicycles in a tiny roadside shop. My mother stitched clothes until late every night. Money was always short. But kindness was something we had in abundance. Dad always said, being poor isn't shameful. Staying dishonest is. Those words stayed with me. After college, life wasn't glamorous. I worked as a delivery driver during the day. At night, I stocked supermarket shelves. On weekends, I repaired laptops and phones for neighbors. Most people thought I was working too much. They didn't know every extra dollar had a purpose. I wanted to build something of my own. I just didn't know what yet. Every evening around 7, I stopped at the same restaurant before my night shift. Honestly, it was average. I went because she worked there. Her name was Jane. She was beautiful in the effortless way that made people stop talking when she walked by. She had bright confidence, perfect makeup, expensive perfume, and a smile that seemed to make every male customer spend more than they intended. She worked as the evening hostess. Our conversations were always short. Welcome. Table for one. Enjoy your meal. But over time, they became longer. She started remembering my usual order. Extra sauce. No onions. Black coffee. Sometimes she'd joke. You work too much. I'd smile. Someone has to. She left. Those tiny moments became the highlight of my day. Maybe I misunderstood her friendliness. Maybe loneliness tricks people into believing ordinary kindness means something more. For almost 2 years, I admired her from a distance. I never crossed any boundaries. I simply enjoyed talking whenever I came in. My coworkers kept encouraging me. Dude, just ask her. You'll regret it if you don't. Finally, I gathered enough courage. That afternoon I bought the nicest shirt I could afford from a discount store. I polished my old shoes until they almost looked new. The bouquet wasn't expensive, but every flower was fresh. I even rehearsed what I'd say while sitting in my car. Simple, respectful, no pressure, just honesty. When I walked into the restaurant, it was unusually busy. Every table was occupied. Jane spotted me immediately. Oh, you're here. Her tone felt different. I should have noticed. Instead, I smiled. I won't take much of your time. She folded her arms. What is it? I swallowed my fear. I know this might sound sudden. I've enjoyed talking with you these past couple of years. I was wondering if you'd like to have dinner with me sometime. For 1 second. Silence. Then she stared at the bouquet. At my shirt. At my worn shoes. Then back at me, and she laughed. Loudly. So this is what you've been thinking. Several customers looked over. She didn't lower her voice. Marcus. You're a delivery driver. I serve businessmen every night. Doctors. Lawyers. People who actually have money. She looked me up and down. What exactly made you think you even had a chance? Someone behind me snickered. My face burned. She was unfinished. I'd rather stay single forever than date someone who counts coins before paying the bill. The laughter spread across the restaurant. One waiter covered his mouth. Another customer whispered something to his wife. They both laughed. Jane shrugged. You should really stay in your league. I couldn't breathe. Every word felt like another hand pushing my head underwater. I slowly placed the flowers on a nearby chair. I'm sorry. That was all I said. Then I walked away. Outside, it started raining. I sat inside my old hatchback for almost an hour. The flowers were still inside the restaurant. I never went back for them. That night, I cried. Not because she rejected me. People had every right to say no. What destroyed me was realizing someone could reduce another human being to their paycheck. For weeks, I avoided that side of town. I accepted extra shifts. Worked 18-hour days. Stopped meeting friends. Stopped wasting money on anything unnecessary. One evening, Dad found me asleep over my laptop. He quietly covered me with a blanket. The next morning he asked, "What happened?" I told him everything. every embarrassing detail. I expected anger. Instead, he smiled sadly. You know what hurts people the most? I shook my head. They start believing what cruel people say. He handed me a cup of tea. If someone laughs at your wallet, don't spend your life proving them wrong. Spend it proving yourself right. Those words changed something inside me. I realized I had been chasing approval from people who had never earned the right to judge me. So I made a decision. I quit my delivery job. I'd been teaching myself software development for nearly 4 years during every spare hour I had. I'd built small apps, freelanced online, saved every payment. Most people around me didn't even know. A former client introduced me to an investor looking for someone to build restaurant management software. Inventory, payroll, reservations, delivery tracking, everything in one system. The pay wasn't extraordinary, but the opportunity was. For 6 straight months, I barely slept. While everyone else rested, I coded, debuted, improved, failed, started over. Again. Finally, the software launched. The investor loved it. Then another restaurant chain licensed it. Then another. Within 18 months, what started as one project became a growing software company serving hundreds of restaurants. I hired employees, moved into a small office, bought my parents a comfortable home, paid off every debt they'd ever carried. The happiest moment wasn't buying my first luxury car. I actually waited months before doing that. The happiest moment was watching my father lock his bicycle repair shop for the last time. He looked at the faded sign he'd worked under for 35 years, then hugged me without saying a word. Sometimes, silence says everything. As my company expanded, business opportunities appeared everywhere. One afternoon, my financial advisor walked into my office carrying several property files. Some restaurant owners are selling. I barely looked up. Not interested. He smiled. You should read this one. I glanced at the address. My heart skipped. It was the restaurant. The same one. Apparently business had been declining for years. Poor management. Debt. Lawsuits. The owner wanted out. I stared at the file for a long time. My advisor asked, should I negotiate? I slowly closed the folder. Yes. The negotiations lasted almost 3 months. The owner wanted far more than the restaurant was worth. My advisor thought we should walk away. I didn't. Eventually, we reached an agreement. The paperwork was signed on a quiet Tuesday morning. Just like that, I became the owner of the restaurant where I'd once been left out the door. It felt surreal. I stood across the street for several minutes before going inside. The sign was faded. The paint was peeling. The windows hadn't been cleaned properly in months. The place looked nothing like the lively restaurant I remembered. I pushed the door open. The lunch crowd was thin. Only a handful of customers occupied the dining room. Nobody recognized me. Why would they? 3 years changes a person. I no longer wore bargain clothes. I stood straighter. Years of experience had replaced uncertainty with quiet confidence. The manager heard over. You must be Mr. Marcus. I nodded. He smiled nervously. The staff is waiting. One by one, the employees gathered in the dining area. Some looked curious, some looked worried. Some were clearly wondering who the new owner was. Then, I saw her. Jane. She was still beautiful. But something had changed. The confidence she once carried like a crown seemed heavier. Her smile looked practiced instead of natural. There were faint dark circles beneath her eyes. She stared at me. At first, there was confusion. Then recognition. Then absolute disbelief. Her face lost every trace of color. She whispered, Marcus. The room fell silent. I simply smiled politely. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marcus. As of today, I'm the new owner. Several employees applauded. Jane didn't. She couldn't. She kept staring as though she'd seen a ghost. I introduced myself. Talked about my plans. Renovations. Better ingredients. Higher service standards. Training programs. Profit-sharing bonuses if targets were met. Everyone seemed excited. When the meeting ended, employees returned to work. Everyone. Except Jane. She slowly approached. She struggled to find words. You own this place. I do. I didn't know. I know. Silence stretched between us. Finally she asked quietly. Can we talk? I looked at my watch. I have another meeting in 15 minutes. Her shoulders fell. Right. She walked away. Over the following weeks, I visited regularly. The restaurant transformed faster than anyone expected. Fresh interiors. A new chef. Locally sourced ingredients. Improved customer service. Marketing campaigns. Within months, reservations doubled, then tripled. Food bloggers began recommending us. People who hadn't visited in years started returning. Business flourished. One thing surprised everyone. I never treated Jane differently. She received no special favors. She was simply another employee. Professional. Respectful. Nothing more. Apparently, that confused her more than revenge would have. One evening after closing, she knocked on my office door. "Do you have a minute?" I looked up. "Come in." She stood awkwardly. "I owe you an apology." I remained silent. She took a deep breath. "What I did 3 years ago. It was cruel. I've wanted to apologize for a long time. I just never knew how." I listened. She continued. "I thought money was everything. My parents raised me to believe financial status determined a person's value. My mother always said, marry rich or struggle forever. So that's what I believed." She looked down. "I judged you without knowing you. I'm ashamed of it." The room stayed quiet. Finally I spoke. "I accepted your rejection. It was your humiliation I couldn't understand." Tears filled her eyes. "I know. I deserved worse than silence." I leaned back. "Why are you apologizing now?" She laughed bitterly. "Because I finally understand. My fiancé left me last year." I raised an eyebrow. "He met someone wealthier." The irony hung heavily between us. She smiled sadly. "I guess life has a strange way of teaching lessons." For the first time, I saw genuine regret. Life had humbled her. She stood to leave. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know. I'm sorry." She left quietly. I didn't stop her. Forgiveness isn't something you announce, it's something that grows. Months passed. The restaurant became one of the highest rated in the city. Employees earned better wages. Customer satisfaction reached record levels. Turnover dropped dramatically. People finally enjoyed working there. One afternoon, I overheard two new employees talking. "Is it true the owner used to work deliveries?" "Yeah. They say he built everything himself." "That's impressive." Jane happened to be walking by. She smiled proudly. "He's the hardest working person I've ever met." Neither employee noticed the sadness in her voice. I did. One evening, Dad visited the restaurant for dinner. He looked around proudly. "You've done well." "We've done well." He chuckled. "I heard this place has an interesting history." I laughed. "You already know the story." He nodded. "I do." Then he looked at me carefully. "Do you still carry that day with you?" I thought for a moment. Then shook my head. "No. What I carry is the lesson." He smiled again. "Good." A few weeks later, I announced promotions. Several employees became supervisors. One became assistant manager. Then I called Jane into my office. She looked nervous. "I know. I've made mistakes. If you're letting me go." I interrupted gently. "I'm promoting you." She blinked. "What?" "You've worked hard. You've helped train new staff. Customers consistently praise your professionalism. You earned this." She stared at me. "After everything I did, I promote performance, not history." Tears streamed down her cheeks. She covered her face. "I don't deserve your kindness." I smiled softly. "Maybe not. But kindness isn't supposed to be earned. It's supposed to be given." She cried harder, just quiet tears from someone finally confronting the person they used to be. Months turned into another year. The restaurant expanded. Then a second location opened. Several employees from the original branch became managers, including Jane. She transformed into someone entirely different. She treated every customer equally. Didn't matter whether they're in designer suits or work uniforms. Years later, a business magazine interviewed me. The reporter asked the question everyone always wanted answered. "Is it true you bought this restaurant to get revenge on a woman who rejected you?" I smiled. "No. I bought a struggling business because I believed it could become successful. But she worked here." She did, so revenge wasn't part of the decision. I shook my head. The greatest revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's becoming someone their opinion can no longer define. The reporter paused before asking one final question. "If you could speak to the younger version of yourself, a man standing with flowers in his hands, what would you tell him?" I looked around the restaurant. Families laughing together. Couples enjoying dinner. Employees smiling while serving customers. My parents sitting at their favorite table near the window. Then I answered. I'd tell him not to waste a single tear trying to prove his worth to someone who only measures people by their wallets. Because one day, he'll discover something much more valuable than wealth. "What's that?" I smiled. "Self-respect." Money can buy buildings, it can buy restaurants, it can even buy success, but it can never buy character. That you have to earn. And sometimes, the people who underestimate you become the very reason you discover how strong you really are. Not because you needed to defeat them, but because you finally decided to stop letting them define who you were.